Hi and welcome back to our GDPR compliance journey. I'm Mike Saville, and this time we're talking about technical measures. Now this is a tricky area because the GDPR is not the most used in terms of what this means or what you have to do. It merely says you have to implement appropriate technical measures such as data encryption or pseudonymization. It doesn't tell you which you have to do, but the rules there really are around it needs to be appropriate and commensurate with the level of personal information and the risk that you are dealing with. So if you have some highly sensitive data around children, for example, you might want to put in some much greater level of technical control than if you just have the name and email of a few customers. So that's important to remember. Now, we've had a good long hard think about what we need to do in terms of technical measures, and really we came to the decision that Cyber Essentials was a good way to go forwards with that. So let's just take a quick look at the guideline software. So here we are at the guideline dashboard, and maybe you've noticed in previous videos that we don't just have the GDPR, but we also have requirements for IT infrastructure cyber essentials scheme. And there's a very good reason we've included this, and it's all to do with technical measures and appropriate security. Now, the UK government has said that if you want to work with them, then they recommend that you have cyber essentials, and they've tried to lay out a base level of quite simple IT security measures that they believe all organisations in the UK should follow. So we believe that that is a good base level standard for all organisations, and if anyone is to challenge an organisation on their technical measures and they've implemented cyber essentials, then at the very least they can say they've implemented the base level of IT needed. Whether or not it's appropriate needs a little more thought around the precise nature of personal data that you're processing, but it should take you a long way down the road to having completed the technical measures. So let's just take a little bit of a closer look at the Cyber Essentials scheme, and it covers some very broad basic topic areas. So there are questions around the scope of your technical infrastructure, so locations, the types of computing solutions you use, whether it's desktops, laptops, servers, cloud services. It covers firewalls, how you protect devices from intrusion and from the outside world. It covers the configuration of devices. Have you disabled accounts? Have you controlled who accesses those accounts? Have you got password policies in place for your organization? And more about how you control the security of configuration. It also covers user access. What sorts of controls do you have? How do you manage your accounts, the disablement of accounts and deletion of accounts? And then it also talks about malware. So do you have antivirus? Do you have anti-malware? Do you have spam control? And finally, it talks about keeping things updated because, as hopefully you're aware, there are new vulnerabilities being identified all the time. So it's important that you keep things updated. So that's just a very brief overview of what's covered in Cyber Essentials. Hopefully you can see it's not too complicated. And also just to point out, you can get access to Cyber Essentials for free in Guideline. Just sign up. It's free to everybody to use. That's a bit about Cyber Essentials. Now, there may be many of you out there who are thinking, I'm not technical, I don't know anything about IT, what should I do? And And really there are some very sensible things that you can do to make sure that you are technically being careful with the personal information that you have. So things like make sure you use long, strong passwords and that you don't use the same password between systems. Make sure when you get a new device or a new firewall that you change the default password on them. Make sure you use things like secure mobile phone codes, sometimes called two-factor. Make sure you implement things like that. If you do use things like spreadsheets for names and emails and addresses and other personal information, consider putting a password on that spreadsheet. And really above all, just be mindful of what you're sending and what you're doing. There's a lot of people out there who can help you with IT. We have some brand partners on our website. There are some links below on the screen. One to the Cyber Essentials scheme itself, so you can have a bit more of a read about that. The Cyber Essentials part of the guidelines software is free, so go and sign up, won't cost you a penny. See where you are against that base level standard, and we'll put some more links in the help around basic technical things that you can do. But getting back to the GDPR, what are the technical priorities you need to do? Well, it really stems, if you remember back a few videos ago, we talked about data mapping, and we talked about after we've done data mapping where we've identified processes that might have present more risk, that we would do a data protection impact assessment. The impact assessment details which measures you've put in place. So really look at your impact assessment, look at what that is telling you about the technical measures you need to put in place, and go ahead and put those measures in place to make sure that you are as technically secure as you can be. And make sure you document what you've done, because it's no good putting things in and then forgetting what you've done. Make sure you've got a list of what you've put in, because what we're coming to on in later video is you need to be able to review those measures and test those measures on an ongoing basis. So that's it for now on technical measures. Quite a lot to take in for those that aren't technically minded, but we hope we've tried to make it a bit simpler for you. Next time we're going to talk about processes, and until then, we hope you find your compliance simple.